Hello and welcome to my channel Making Crafts. Today I'm going to show you 3 different ways to use the new Layered Autumn Leaves stamp and coordinating die set from Cat Scrappiness. I'll also be using the Fallen Leaves 6x6 paper pad, and this is a new release from Cat Scrappiness as well, and I will link below to all of the products that I am using. I will also be using the Layered Autumn Leaves stamp set. There's 3 different style leaves in this stamp set and 2 different size acorns. I'll also be using the coordinating die set, and this die set contains all of the dies for the stamps that's in the stamp set. Now, for today's leaves, I'm going to be using the leaves with the stem, but you do have the option of using a leaf without the stem in the die set as well. So I'm just going through my paper pack and I'm picking out 3 different pieces of paper for my leaves, and I'm choosing all plaids for these. I think this will be a good background for our leaves. And so I would say this is probably the simplest of all the projects and the simplest of all the ways to use these leaves. So I've just cut thin strips off of each one of the pieces of paper, and I'm saving the rest of the paper because we can use them later on in our project. So I'm just going to cut 1 leaf out of each piece of paper, and I think these leaves look beautiful, but we're going to set these aside and we will use these in a card in just a moment, but let's create all of our leaves before creating our cards. So for the next set of leaves, these leaves I'm creating them pretty much like the stamp set and die set was created for. So I'm just first taking the background stamp set, this solid stamp set, and this will be the color of our leaf. And so this stamp set is great. If you do not like coloring in your stamps, this is the perfect stamp set for you because there are stamps to color in your leaves for you. So there's 3 different style leaves, and then there's 2 different sizes for each leaf. So I'm just going to come in and ink each one of mine. And for me and how much pressure I use on my platform, it takes me probably 3 or 4 times to get a good solid color like I like it. It just really varies on your ink and what look you're going for. Then I'm coming back with the leaf stamp that has the outline of the leaf as well as the veins, and I'm stamping each one of my leaves. And so you just need to line these up, and you can see one of them I messed up, so I may make another one. But the more you use these, the easier it gets to create those leaves. That was the first time I created those or stamped those. So for the next set of leaves, we're going to be using some colored cardstock, and then we're going to be using the outline leaf stamp that has the veins and the outline of the leaf, and we're just going to stamp that onto our cardstock using some brown ink. So I'm using Ground Espresso for these. And so I've just stamped onto several different colors of cardstock, and then I've die cut them out using the coordinating dies. So now let's start making our cards. So we're going to go back to the first set of leaves that we made, and I have chosen a piece of cardstock for the background of my card, and I'm trying to figure out with this one, is this directional or non-directional? So when you look at the leaves, it really doesn't matter what direction they're going, but the more I look at it, the more I realize that I think the acorns need to be pointing down. So I think that's the correct direction for this piece. It took me just a moment because once I cut it, I wasn't sure, but if you look back in your book, that's how it is in the paper pad book. So I'm just going to add this to my card front, and I cut it like I normally do to 5 1/4 by 4. And so this is just going to be the background of my card. I've cut another strip, and this was from one of the scraps where we cut the leaves out, and I cut this strip to 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to attach it to the center of our card. And today I'm just using double-sided tape, and I'm using my ATG tape runner, and I'm just applying double-sided tape instead of using glue. I find that this holds as well, and it's not as messy sometimes using this. Glue can get a little bit messier. So then I also cut a strip from the background strip. So the piece of paper that we used for the background had a strip left over. So I'm just using that one, and I cut it down to 2 inches by 5 1/4. I like to be stingy with my paper pads. So I try to, when I cut a piece off, I try to either reuse the piece somehow in the card or in the next card that I'm making. So I'm just going to center it up onto my first little plaid strip. And then I'm going to come back with some foam tape and pop the leaves up onto the strip. And so this is a very simple card, but I really love how it turned out. And this is a card that you could mass make. If you wanted to make a bunch of cards at one time, this one would be a very simple card to do that with. And I just love all the colors, and I love how these leaves look die cut out of this paper. So on to our next card. So the next card is going to be the leaves that we stamped and die cut out. And so for those, I'm going to bring in 2 more pieces of paper. So I'm using the leftover strip from where we cut out some of the other leaves, and then I've picked out another piece of the cardstock that I want to use. So I've cut down my cardstock. The first piece is cut to around 1.5 by 5 1/4. It may be just a little over 1.5. And so I'm just lining this up on my card, and the easiest way to line this up is to know that I left an 1/8 inch around all of the sides. So when I put it on, if it's even at the top, bottom, and side, if all of that's the same, then it will all fit right. And then I'm just going to layer the next strip, which measures 2.5 by 5 1/4. I'm just going to overlap it just a little onto the first strip that we put down, and I'm just attaching that all to the card front. And I'm also bringing in my stitched alphabet, and this is my new favorite product as well from Cat Scrappiness. I'm having so much fun with these dies. So I've cut out the letters for the word thanks, and I used some of the scraps left over from where we've made the card before, where we cut those leaves out. I used some of those scraps to cut out the letters for thanks, and then I also cut out some white cardstock just to add a little shadow to these letters, and I think that it helps it to just pop off the card when you do that. So I've gone ahead and arranged all of my leaves and letters kind of how I want them, but I will get everything straightened up a bit once I glue them down to the card. So I'm just going to glue these down using liquid glue, and I'm just going to glue everything flat except for the smaller leaves. Everything else I'm just gluing down flat because I felt like the letters popped up enough that they didn't need to be popped up with foam tape. And then the leaves at top, I kind of wanted those to be not, really sticking up, but just laying flat. I didn't want any dimension on them, but I am coming back with the smaller leaves, and I'm adding some foam tape to those, and then I'm just adding them to my card. And so I could have lined my letters up, thanks, straight across. It would have fit just fine, but I just kind of like the mixed up look of those letters like that. So I really love how this card turned out as well. And so let's make our last card. So for the last card, that is the card where we made the leaves stamping onto our colored cardstock. So I'm going to start out with this one with a craft color card base. I'm going to be using some white cardstock for my background. And so I'm just coming in and stamping the small leaves using, I think this stamp pad is called Baja Breeze, but it's a blue that kind of matches the paper that I'm using. So I was trying to find a blue that matched the cardstock so that everything matched really well. And so I'm just stamping these leaves randomly around my paper. I really don't have a formula for it. It's just what looks right to my eye. I'm going to come back now with the acorn stamp, and I'm just going to stamp it on the background as well. And this acorn stamp is absolutely beautiful. I don't know what it is about it, but I absolutely love how it looks stamped. For my sentiment, I'm going to be using Grateful, Thankful, Blessed, and this is the sentiment that came from the Farmhouse sentiment set, so I will link to it below as well. I am going to just stamp the wording and not the little image that's on the stamp. There's a little image above the wording on this stamp set, but I'm just going to stamp the letters instead. So I'm just being myself, and this is how I craft. So I just wiped it off and tested to see if that would work. It works, so I'm just going to come back and add ink to my letters, and then I'm just going to wipe it off the image and stamp it. There are a lot of more, what's the word I'm looking for? Better ways to do this. You don't have to use your finger. You can just tape it off or block it off with a Post-it note or something, but this is me and how I craft. I'm just sort of messy like that, and sometimes I'm a little lazy too. I don't want to go get out the tape or the Post-it note to block it off, so I just did it this way. And so I'm just going to use more of that blue cardstock that matches my leaves. I'm just attaching that to behind the white cardstock, And then I am just using some liquid glue to glue the leaves to the front of my card. And this is a very simple card, but I love how it turned out as well. And so I'm just going to attach this to a craft colored card base. And to be honest, I said I love all these cards, but fall are my colors. Fall, the leaves, I love a good leaf stamp, and this one is a really good one. There's so many more options. I've just showed you 3 ways that I use them, but there are so many different ways that you could use this leaf and die set. I had several more I'd like to show you, but I didn't have time in this video, so maybe if I get time before I jump into Christmas crafting, I will come back and do some of those projects. But I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that maybe you've gotten some ideas on how to use your leaf and die set. And so I will link below to all of the products that I use. Those are my affiliate links, and it really helps me out if you use my affiliate links, and it costs you nothing extra. It also helps my channel out if you like and subscribe. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.